Good afternoon and welcome to my channel. Today I would like to invite you to bake with me a 3-layer coffee cake. Chocolate, vanilla top and meringue in the middle. And the meringue part is the most difficult, I would say. I had tried doing it a few times when I started baking and I did not take into consideration a few things. So I would like to share with you few of the tips that will help you with the meringue. The meringue is the most complex part, and you need fresh egg whites. And the egg whites, how you recognize if they're fresh or not. When you crack an egg and it is a very thick, solid egg white, it's fresh. If you have a watery one, then the egg wasn't that fresh. Second part is the amount of sugar per 1 egg white. It should be about 4 tablespoons. If you want your meringue to be really stiff and crunchy, then 4 tablespoons of sugar per 1 egg white. And the third part, when you start beating those egg whites, beat it on medium for about 2 minutes or so, and then slowly start adding 1 tablespoon of sugar at a time, every 45 seconds to 1 minute. That is advice I can give, and I hope that will help you to make this cake a wonderful treat for whoever you make it. Enjoy it. Thank you for watching. For my 3-layer cake, I need 4 cups of all-purpose flour, half a cup of sugar, 2 full sticks of butter plus 6 tablespoons, 4 eggs, and I will separate the egg whites from egg yolks, as I only need the egg yolks to make my dough, and egg whites I will beat it, and that will be another layer for that cake. 2 teaspoons of baking powder, 2 tablespoons of cocoa, because 1 layer will be a chocolate cake. I have separated egg whites from egg yolks. The flour goes in with the egg yolks and the sugar. I have cut up the butter, sliced it, and the butter needs to be cold. If you want a crunchy cake, kind of like a shortbread texture, then your butter needs to be cold. So 2 teaspoons of baking powder, and it's time to work with it. So you just use your hands, and at first it will be like a crumble, and after a while when you work with it, it will become nice and solid piece. So if it ever happens to you when the cake is not really coming together, not smooth and soft and consistent, then you can always add 1 tablespoon of sour cream, and that will work fine. Because if you use different flours, you will notice that not everything is exactly the same. Some flours are more fluffy than others, so they are not created equal. So you can see here it starts coming together. It looks like a crumble right now, but give it 2-3 more minutes and you will see the way it should be. Almost there. So now I like to finish it on the board. And the dough is done, and you can see how nice and smooth it looks like. So now it's time to divide it in 3 parts, and I really like to use scale even for measuring your flour. It is very easy to give measurements in cups, like 4 cups, 2 cups, but there can be a slight difference between flours. And I have showed it a couple times on my videos when I had 2.5 cups in 1 glass and 2 cups in the other glass, and they weighed exactly the same. I've done it many times. I thought I have exactly 2 cups, I put it on my scale, and it wasn't what it should be. So even 50 grams can make a big difference of the texture of your cake. So just keep that in mind, please. Here I would like to divide my dough into 3 parts, 1 being the base on the bottom, and then the middle part I will add the cocoa powder to make it chocolate. It will be chocolate layer, and then the third part will go on top. It will be vanilla. So vanilla, chocolate, vanilla. Egg whites will go in between. So this cake is kind of complex, but it is worth doing. It does taste wonderfully. So here again, the biggest part will be on the bottom. For me, top part 350 grams, middle part 330 grams, and I will add cocoa powder to it, so it's going to be, you know, almost the same as this one. And then the base is the biggest, and that's 400 grams. So now I have divided this, and my middle part will go back to my dish, and this is where I add 2 tablespoons of cocoa to make it chocolate. And the other 2 parts, one will go in the fridge for a little bit, and that's the base, the bottom one, the biggest. And the other one will go in my freezer, because I will use a shredder to shred this on the end. That will be the top of the cake, and it's cold. It will be very easy to shred. And with this, I'll just make the, if you want to use gloves, you know, go ahead, use gloves if you don't want your hands to be chocolatey. Incorporate the cocoa powder, and once you're done, also wrap it and put it in the freezer, because this dough will also be shredded on that cake. The dough is not going to be so dense when it's shredded. So this is the reason why. Here is my chocolate one, and I will also wrap it and put it in the freezer. Ooh, behind the scenes. Ooh. Next step is to prepare baking sheet, and I put some coconut oil on the bottom, the paper stays in, and I took my dough out, and now I will need to flatten it, because this will go on the bottom of my cake. And I try to make it even. It might seem like it's kind of thin, but there is some baking powder and it will rise up. Because of the dough is so delicate, I like to just take it in parts and then spread it here. That way it's not gonna fall apart as much. While I'm doing this, my oven is preheating to 350, and I will put that bottom part in my oven for 10 minutes to pre-bake, because next layer is the jam and I don't want my dough to become soggy. So preheating the dough will prevent the dough from being soggy from the jam. Sometimes all the details in baking are the main key components to remember to make your baking experience easier and tasting wonderfully. Here, just a regular fork, punch some holes, it will become more delicate. When I was a little girl and I watched my aunt doing that, I'm like, what is she doing? 350 for 10 minutes. So now it's time for my egg whites while my crust is preheating, and I need 2/3 of a cup of sugar, the 4 egg whites, and if you have really small eggs, put 5, and pinch of salt. So I will put my egg whites in with the pinch of salt, beat it for about a minute and a half, and then slowly start adding my sugar into it. So what I usually do is put 1 tablespoon every minute. On the end, when you put your last tablespoon of sugar, mix it for at least 2 minutes. And then when you're almost done, add 2 tablespoons of vanilla pudding. I'm from Poland, so I'm using a Polish kind of a pudding, but you know, you can use any pudding, they're all the same. It comes to the starch, potato starch that's in there. So that's what we need. So 2 tablespoons. And mix it on a lower power for maybe 30 seconds. And it's done. And here I have another option for you. So this is ready to be put on that cake. If you want even more flavor, you could add some coconut flakes to it. And this is if you like coconut flavor. So this time 3/4 of a cup. Just gently mix it, and another layer for the cake is ready. Okie dokie. And here is my pre-baked crust. So now it's time for jam, and make sure your jam is warm and not from the fridge, not cold. So just spread it evenly. My jar is about 312 grams. So my jar is about 11 ounces. And next comes my chocolate layer. And that's why it needs to be cold, so it's easy to shred. And make sure you spread it around evenly, because it's hard to get to the corners. Why is it that I do my egg whites while I bake my crust? So when it's time to put it all together, I have it ready, because it takes about 10 minutes, so it's actually perfect timing. And time for my egg whites. I remember my aunt making this cake when I was a little girl, and I thought, this is so difficult, I will never learn how to do it. She is amazing. Last part of that yummy cake is that vanilla dough. You will have some around your board, so it's nice to have a big board. It's really hard to get it to the corner, so just spread it with your fingers so every single layer here is covered. And now it will go in the oven, 350 for another 40 minutes. Already, yum yum. So every time my alarm goes off when it's time to take my cookies and cakes out, I get very excited. This time I have sad news. I have to wait another hour because of the egg whites. The meringue needs to cool off slowly. Otherwise, it will lose its volume and the cake is not gonna look so pretty. And finally, it's been an hour, so I can take it out. But I will wait another half an hour to cut it and show you how it looks like on the inside. So those are the tips that I want to present to you. I would like this channel to be for everyone, and especially for the people who just start to bake. That's why I talk more than I expected. I would like to explain why I do certain things. I hope I'm doing it the right way and I'm not boring to some of the people who are good cooks and have an experience. So if you are a new baker, just keep trying. If you're curious, you like to do it, you have a passion for it, that's all you need. Give it some time. I hope I do help with me talking and explaining how I'm doing things. I know I have an accent, so I hope this is not an issue, but whatever my aunt, my grandma taught me, how she taught me, you know, either grandma or my aunt, I would like to share it with you. So the beginners, I want you to be encouraged, not discouraged. You know, I have made lots of mistakes and threw away a few things before I actually started baking good stuff. So if you have curiosity, if you are willing to do it and you start liking it, keep doing it. It's for you. That's how it was for me in the beginning. I have thrown away even soups when I started cooking, but I never gave up. I'm like, okay, nobody sees it, you know. If you like it, that's the most important thing. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your patience.